Hello, my name is Sarah. It has been a while, but I've got a new background now. I've got some new lighting. I wanted to keep the same purplish blue hue, and I've missed this so much, so let's get right into it. So, the problem with female friendships, we don't even like each other. You don't even like each other. So how come? How come is this a thing? Well, first, before I get into it explaining this, I want to preface and use my attachment theory, which is what I talked about last video if you haven't watched that, and the historical reasoning to this problem, because I feel like a lot of people don't bring that up, or they don't think back to this to the past to kind of observe over time, especially in comparison to men. This is how like this whole explanation came about. This is literally how it came about, where I was like, why is friendship so easy for men seemingly, and why are they have such good seemingly such good quality friendships that last longer, that they actually enjoy, and then women don't. This is where it came about, and then I really started to research into it, so I want to share my thoughts on it. So my attachment theory, what I explained about in last video, was really like the attachment theory for like relationships, but it's kind of the same way with friendships, similarly, kind of the same points, but in a different order. You still shouldn't, like I said, neglect any of these, but you can rearrange it, definitely. That's the point of this explanation. You can rearrange. So the chronological order for how to attach to someone in a relationship, what I said is: first, ego boost; second, making memories with them, memory made; third, emotional attachment; and fourth, sexual intimacy. So obviously for friendships, you're not going to have sexual intimacy. So we're just focusing on the first three. So to explain, ego boost is the mutual admiration, mutual like and interest, like respect is established here. Simply, the law is we like people who seem to like us. We need to feel and we need to know that the other person simply likes us and likes who we are. And if this happens, it improves and ensures that we have confidence and transparency with this person. We stay who we are, and that we have some sort of self-love for ourselves, because it's like we can't have a relationship with somebody if we can't maintain a good relationship with ourselves, sort of thing. So that's kind of what I mean by this. And also simply like to maybe even initial attraction to appearance, even if it is the same gender. I think it's kind of like the subconscious thought where we need to it's kind of like we see an individual and we're like, okay, they are in terms of physical attractiveness, maybe they're on my level, sort of thing. Even if that sounds shallow, like if you know, like maybe you're a put together individual, you think you're attractive, you're most likely to be friends with people that are also attractive. So this is where the ego boost comes into play. Second, making memories. I just say memory made. Is where you're hanging out with each other. And this is also like this in-person hanging out is the opportunity for your body to chemically bond with this person, for your body to release chemicals, literally. And so your brain can start to make an attachment actually chemically. So for men, that can be, for men and women, it can be the vasopressin, it can be the dopamine, oxytocin, laughing together, all that sorts of things, and just so the brain can collect memories about a person. You have more to reflect on. And then emotional intimacy, also pretty obvious. This is just where you're vulnerable with each other. You can be vulnerable with each other. You can ask each other for advice. Um, you've seen all sides of them, sort of thing, and still your opinion isn't changed, your loyalty isn't changed. That's like emotional intimacy. And I just wanted to explain those, just to be very clear about what they all were. So I've explained sort of the steps that are involved with how to attach to an individual, and then also the historical background to the problem I'm bringing up. So now that we know that there's certain steps for how to attach somebody, I haven't brought up what steps in what order to take, but I also want to preface that women have not always been in the working force like men have. Men have always worked. Men have always had the household with their wife and kids, and they've always left the household to go work and to be with other men because men were the only gender that worked. So it's like majority, if not like majority of the time, they were around their friends. They were around other men, they were around their peers. Like that really kind of was their family. That really was, I would say, who they were most strongly attached to, because they were around most of the time. And obviously during this time, we come to evolve to socialize and attach to each other in a certain way. I'm saying men learn to socialize with each other and attach with each other in a certain way, and it's the same to this day. Men, so how do men I'm sorry. So there's that comparison. So now think about women. Women have not always worked. So since like the 1890s, before it was like women would stay home with the kids all day, and kids are not, so it's like you're a woman, you're a grown woman, you have all these responsibilities, and then you're around the kids all day, and it's kind of like you have no one of your equal to socialize with. You have no one of your equal to sharpen your socializing skills with. In comparison to men, they knew how to connect and network with their peers of their own age, right? So there's the first disadvantage, but then also maybe not even a disadvantage if you don't want to look at it that way. I'm so sorry. Wow. I'm so sorry. Whoa. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what if we don't look at it as a disadvantage way, whatever you want to call it, just differently. And then in the community, so the women would see their peers if they went outside of the house and they did chores together, and if they needed to borrow ingredients from one another, or if they needed tips for how to make their laundry softer, or how does she get her hair to be so beautiful, and kind of stuff like that. Like that's how we would socialize, because we were like household maintainers, and we respected our mothers and our elderly, and we learned from like our grandmothers, and we looked up to women. That was literally the foundation for the connection that you had with other women, was looking up to them and learning from them so you could step into their shoes and even be better than them, type of thing. And if not, you were socializing with children. So that was before. And then so now, so since the 1890s, I guess, women changed from that to being in the working force. And so all I'm trying to tell you is women have not been in the workforce as long as men have. So when it comes to socializing with peers, we're not as evolved. We're literally not as evolved. We're confused and awkward. And still we're trying, seemingly to me, still we're trying to find our grace in this. And it's okay, because we started late. But then if you ever catch yourself wondering, wow, how is it so easy for them to make friends? How is it so they have such a big friend circle? Well, they're socially more evolved than you, simply. That's what it is. And I don't hear people say this. Literally, they're more evolved. So to leave from that, now that I've said the two preface, the attachment, what the attachment theory is and the historical background to this problem. So how right now are women bonding with each other incorrectly? And I've come up with this incorrect bonding type. It, looking at how we used to bond with each other versus how we bond with each other now. So how we bond with each other now is the incorrect way, I think, because it's seemingly like it's not working and it's not fulfilling. So that incorrect way, if you feel unfulfilled in female friendships, is that we go straight for emotional, second, we go for memory, and third, we go for ego. So let me explain this a little bit deeper. Like, why is this so problematic? So going straight for emotional first, because we say that we are being a girl's girl. So girl's girl, what is that? Being friendly to every girl, no matter what, even if you have or feel no genuine want to be their friend. So literally, what is the point of this sometimes when I see this? I wouldn't even say being a girl's girl. I would say, being respectful to people, being polite, being nice. But to go out of your way to be so friendly to a girl that maybe is not on your level in terms of attractiveness, mentally, or she doesn't have her career together, or all her boyfriends treat her horribly, kind of thing. Like, girl's girl, it's kind of like, why? And think of give and take, like the law of the universe. Like, girl's girl, why are you giving so much energy when there's little to no value, like a return to you? It's a superficial connections. And two, I feel like we say that everybody's like a girl's girl. Everybody needs to be a girl's girl. But then it's like we feel exhausted because we give so much of our energy and our friendship to so many girls at a time. We feel unfulfilled. And then there's kind of like this bullying feel going on, and it's like henhouse spirit. So if you don't know what henhouse means, it's kind of like where there's a bunch of girls in one. It's like a bunch of girls in a group, or a bunch of girls at a workplace too, especially, and it's a hen house. Like, you all are kind of nice to each other on the surface, but then you'll talk about each other to each other behind each other's backs. So that's like a hen house. It's like socially chaotic. It's awful. And keeping peace for what? And that's also like an historical thing. Keeping peace for what? Because that's all we know. That's literally, we are socially behind. We're socially behind. And women back in the day were supposed to be so polite, because if you weren't always polite and you weren't always respectful, maybe you'd get beat for that. Like, girls we're behind. We're taught to be polite, not make a fight, maybe with another girl. It's kind of seen as less. So being a girl's girl, and then ease. So we women are naturally oxytocin and dopamine bond, and it's really so, because of that, so we're in touch with our feelings. It's easy to talk about how we feel, and that's simply just what we do. It's second nature. But this requires minimal effort. So think about this. So if every girl ever, when she's making a friend, is giving minimal effort to be friends with you, you're giving minimal effort to be friends with her, it's gonna be a very superficial connection. It's gonna be a very superficial friendship. It's gonna be your interview friend. And surely you've heard this on the internet where women complain and they're like, oh, I have a girlfriend and we see each other every maybe sort of couple of months. And then when we come together, we just talk about everything that's happened since we last seen each other. And then at the end of the brunch day, it's like, all right, well, see you next time. It's kind of like you just unloaded to each other. But it's kind of like you didn't express or you didn't exercise any joy with this person. You didn't express any sort of like laughter or actual like for each other. No ego bonding. No ego bonding has happened yet. Like I said, incorrect attachment. You've gone straight for emotional, and then when you're interviewing each other, you've gone straight to memory making, which is spending time with each other. And it's like you think that's the correct way, but it's like you're missing the ego. And the ego used to happen back in the day when we needed each other. We recognized maybe that there was a woman in the village that had beautiful hair and had a husband that treated her so well. We gave her the ego boost by saying, what can I do? How can I learn from you? Sorry. So, to move on. So, I want to talk about this phrase. I've explained the emotional connection and how we go straight for emotional connection and what that creates, the hen house spirit, like bullying each other, superficial connection, and like having an interview friend. Okay, forget that. So let me transition by saying this phrase that maybe you also heard on the internet as well as my friend. We have interviews every sort of couple of months. Okay, my boyfriend is my only friend. Okay, to further prove my point, you saying my boyfriend is my only friend, I feel like my boyfriend is my best friend, my only friend, that's because he's the only one that you feel has genuinely liked you. He's the only one in your life that genuinely likes you. Because what that equals in my language is he has had the ego attachment with you first and properly. I'm saying that we as women, we need to ego attach to each other first. We need to respect each other first, to look up to each other first. We need to be inspired by each other first. This also, might I add, is the Venus effect. We as women, we're femininity. We look up to the moon and we look up to Venus. Okay, you're looking up to the moon when you are emotionally attaching to an individual. But it's like you're completely forgetting about Venus. So the Venus effect is kind of is having like a role model, but more so maybe like a muse too. It's the Venus effect is when you say, I'm not really explaining this well. Okay, Marilyn Monroe. So if the Venus effect to you is you learn about Marilyn Monroe and you think Marilyn Monroe is so beautiful and you love the way that she handled her relationship with men, in that admiration from you giving your admiration to Marilyn Monroe, you giving your love to Marilyn Monroe, that is the Venus effect. You say, Marilyn Monroe, you're so beautiful, I love what you've done, please teach me. You're going to teach me because I'm going to learn about you. And by you giving your admiration and love to another woman, that admiration and love is going to come back to you. That is the Venus effect in the universe. So anyway, little off topic. But that is why I'm saying the ego attachment must be first when it comes to women. Spoiler. Okay. My boyfriend is my only friend. Okay, so transition from this statement. My boyfriend is my only friend. He's the only one that genuinely likes you in your life. That's why you feel that way. So let me explain how boys attach to each other. So we can learn from them because they are more evolved than us socially. Compared to boys, what are they doing right? So boys attach to one another by memory first. So obviously this is historically, men would leave the house and they would go to work, and at work they would be with other men, their peers. This is the hanging out, right? They're spending so many hours of the day together. And still to this day, that's what they do. Men they leave the house and they go hang out with each other, and they go do boyish things like sports or just maybe like physical activities and kind of bantering with each other, kind of toughening up with each other. That's just historically, and it's still the same to this day. Memory. Boys do memory first correctly. They're doing it correctly, might I add. So next, they ego attach to one another. So I put in parentheses here, I think bro is cool. I respect him. He has good work ethic. He's not a pussy. Okay? That's the ego attachment that boys can have with each other. And this is so important during the memory making too, because it kind of so when they're all together in a group like this, boys are all together in a group, once they have that ego attachment to another individual male in the group, because they kind of admire what he's got going on, his physique, they learn from each other that way, and they stick with each other, and so that's important. It's really important. I don't think guys are friends with other guys that they look down on. They'll just see him as annoying or someone to pick on. Kind of like survival of the fittest, they're kind of more primal that way. So ego is perfectly second after this. And third, the only last one to go, is emotional. So the emotional attachment is last because boys are not really in tune with their emotions or in tune with their dopamine or oxytocin bonding. They produce way more vasopressin, which comes with the hanging out, the memory making first. So they've already chemically bonded correctly, and then they kind of mentally bond with the ego. So emotional is last just because boys are not as emotional as us. Maybe as women, they're not as needy of that. So lastly, it's like if he has a bro that he respects, and they're on the same level, this emotional is like, bro stands up for me, bro is loyal to me, bro doesn't tell my secrets, and bro gives me really good advice when I'm in need. So they confide in one another, and they help each other out in life. They learn from each other because they're vulnerable enough to open up. So this emotional really seals the deal. And this is every male friendship goes this way because it is the perfect way, and it is the perfect order for men to attach to each other in this friendship way. So I also kind of wanted to add as a little note here, kind of like what I said about the henhouse spirit, that and this is just, there's so much to learn from male friendships because they're so evolved. Men are very upfront when they don't like another guy in the group. There's nothing fake. It's all laid out on the table. The ego boost has clearly failed or succeeded. Always. There's never a question about it. And I think that we could really, really learn from this. If women somehow successfully incorporate the ego boost first there would be no such thing as superficial or interview friends, or there's be no such thing as henhouse spirit or women giving each other dirty looks on the street for no reason. There would just be, it's all laid out on the table, and it's kind of like we're so mean to each other because like we're jealous of each other, we don't respect each other, or like we assume the worst about each other. So I just wanted to add that because I really admire that, and I wish that we just weren't so afraid of the negative, but it's literally just ancestry, and we're trying to evolve out of that. I just wanted to point it out. So now that we've learned from how guys attach to each other, let me finally get into how women can correctly attach to one another. So, sorry, my notes. Right. Okay, so if you haven't kind of realized already, the correct order for females to attach to one another, female and female friendship, is first ego, second emotional, and third memory. So let me explain it. Men, oh gosh, I should have mentioned this before this, but so you notice how I said ego first for women. This does not work for men because men are competitive by nature. So ego would not be first. They want those on the same level. They need more reason to like one another. So I feel like the only way that the ego is first in a male on male relationship is with son and father. Maybe I should go into that in another video, but men are competitive. They don't want to, it just doesn't work. Ego's not first. There has to be some level of mutual first, which is just hanging out in a mutual setting, and then the ego can come. Okay, anyway, so for women, ego, emotional, memory. Women need each other by nature, historically, because we are all we had when our men were gone. So women need each other by nature. We visually and socially admire from afar and look up to. We need the Venus effect in our life, basically. Don't neglect that. If you don't have any like women like you can think of in your brain that you look up to and that you think are beautiful, fix that. Like research it seriously. It's like we need to have a lady that we look up to. That's the ego. You bring an ego attachment into your life that way. You looking down on another woman, you looking down on a girl that's your peer, is not good. You're completely going against the Venus like law. Anyway, so we should go after the girls that can teach us something. It's the big sister dynamic, it's the mother dynamic, it's the dynamic that we're most used to. And I already explained historically why. So friend crushes, if you've heard that term, are so important and should be acted upon. Intimidation and girls out of your league. We want to become better. We want to evolve so we can create a better household and so we can raise better children. Blah, 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 blah. We need to look up to other women and learn from them. Next is emotional, and I know I've put it down so much, but next is emotional correctly because it's scientifically natural for us to bond this way. It's so important. Women are emotional, so we need to be able to be emotional. We need to be very comfortable with that with our new friend. And lastly is memory, because in nature, for us as women, to give ourselves to anyone, even if that other person is a girl, signifies real connection. You know? Literally, we as women, we show our vulnerability, and we show the last step in any relationship in our lives by giving our time and giving ourselves and giving our presence and our energy to another individual, letting somebody else in the house, letting somebody else take care of our kids. That's it's the height of female connection. The height of attachment that a woman gives a man is her body, by letting somebody in. So memory is the last step. It's so much easier for you. This is kind of the last little statement. So if you find it so much easier for you to want to hang out with your boyfriend than arrange a meetup with a girl friend, right? Because with your boyfriend, you've given yourself to him. Lastly, correctly, you've attached to him correctly, mentally. And that's why it's like I feel so attached to him and I want to hang out with him. But if you properly did these steps with your girlfriend as well, you would be attached to her as well. So I loved explaining that. I loved bringing that into light. This is the end, by the way. Just because personally, like, I've had this personal problem where it's really so upsetting, and I was kind of like, why do I feel so like I'm just, what is a good word? Like, I'm just so unknowledgeable, or like other girls, every girl is just so unknowledgeable about how to have a good relationship with another girl. And so I've laid it all on the table. So I've missed you guys so much. Yeah. So I'll see you next video, and let me know what you thought about this. I've never heard anybody explain it the way that I just have, so I'm excited to share.